I want to talk just briefly about this notion that MGTOW is just men doing whatever they want. Let me preface by saying MGTOW is a phenomenon, a philosophy, and an ideology, and it is a community. It is not simply men doing whatever they want. A philosophy of men doing whatever they want isn't really a philosophy. Men doing whatever they want isn't a phenomenon, and mostly because it's subjective. On one hand, all men have been subjected to rules from rulers, other society members, or forces of nature acting on them. Thus no man has ever been truly free to do what he wants, and yet men have always had choices, and so men have always made the choices they wanted to make, whether that choice is to get married, jump off of a cliff, starve himself to death, rob a liquor store, watch TV all day, whatever. Men have always made the choices they've chosen, so either all men are doing what they want, or no men are doing what they want. It's neither a phenomenon or a philosophy, it's nonsense at best. Some will tell you that MGTOW, it's all about the going your own way as in doing your own thing, and this suffers from the same problem. These people will get more specific and tell you it's about men having the choice to do this, or that, or the other. It's about men choosing their own path, but this is silly. What man isn't choosing his own path? Male feminists and white knights are doing what they want, going their own way, choosing their own path. By these definitions, all men are MGTOW, and if every man has been, is now, and always will be, MGTOW, then MGTOW is a nonsensical and redundant word meaning men. It's as silly as saying special means different, and everyone is different. Thus everyone is special. Well, if everyone is special then no one is special. Either we're all MGTOW or no one is MGTOW by the aforementioned definitions, so clearly. The aforementioned definitions can't be right. You will often hear those aforementioned definitions from people trying to sell you a marriage-friendly version of MGTOW, and/or a woman-friendly version, you know, like misogyny has no place in MGTOW, that sort of thing. Let's focus on the MGTOW can be pro-marriage argument. What do you think the MGTOW phenomenon is? What do you think that refers to? Putting aside a MGTOW philosophy, let's just analyze the phenomenon. The phenomenon we have all been calling MGTOW is not the sudden rise in men getting married. It is not the sudden rise in men choosing to get married or not. It is not the sudden rise in men being pussy-chasing simps. It is not the sudden rise in men choosing to be pussy-chasing simps or not. The references to the MGTOW phenomenon has never meant those things. It has always been a reference to men abandoning the marriage racket, and to some degree in some way, abandoning the pussy-chasing, again, to some degree at least. The philosophy itself would thusly have to be about explaining this phenomenon, justifying this phenomenon, and encouraging this phenomenon. Men removing themselves from the protector-provider role, abandoning marriage, and no longer centering his life on women, is the doing. It is the MGTOW phenomenon. Analyzing the phenomenon's cause and effect, is the MGTOW philosophy. Justifying the phenomenon, is the MGTOW ideology. Promoting and encouraging the phenomenon, is MGTOW activism, or the movement. People coming together to analyze, justify, and promote the phenomenon, would be the MGTOW community. I should mention, not all individual MGTOW wish to partake in a community. I'm sorry, but marriage stands in opposition to MGTOW, and MGTOW stands in opposition to marriage. The feel-good fluffy talk about it being a movement to give men choices, is rubbish. Men have always had these choices. Men have always been allowed to marry or not, date or not, have sex or not, be a white knight or not, center his life on women or not. MGTOW is the phenomenon of men making the choice to not. The argument that MGTOW is about removing social pressures to adhere to certain choices and gender norms, is also false. An effort to alter social norms is an effort to change the society outside of the individual. An individual can always choose to break from tradition, break social and gender norms. Fighting for the social approval, the social acceptance of such, is an effort to change those around you. Well, that is merely but an effort. It is not a doing, is not an action. It is thus not a phenomenon, because it is not a happening. It's a wanting, wishing, asking, promoting, but not a doing. The statement MGTOW is about men having choice, is feel-good fluff talk with no actual meaning behind it, because again, all men are MGTOW by such a definition, and I suspect this catchphrase is actually derived from an effort to push a pro-marriage, pro-gynocentric, pro-woman-friendly MGTOW, and tell anyone who objects to this rebranding of the MGTOW concept, that they are against men having choices, and of course that would make us just as bad as the feminists, which is a common catchphrase by the intellectually challenged who cannot formulate a better smear against the movement. The tradcans within the MRM could not intellectually win against MGTOW, and could not compete with our growing numbers, while their kind fade into oblivion. So as a last-ditch effort they try to compete with us by hijacking the definition of the term that describes us. They want to hijack the term into some meaningless fluff that will ultimately be marriage-friendly, and anti-misogyny. and pro-gynocentric, and cool with old-fashioned traditionalism. My fellow MGTOW, those who tried to tell you the nonsense that MGTOW is just about choice, it's about men doing whatever they want, are either deceivers intent on hijacking the movement to corrupt what it stands for, or they are simply ignorant of what it means. Many people have in fact been ignorant of what it means and have been wearing the label like a cool club jacket. To them, it's some fluffy feel-good pretentious word meaning free thinker and free spirit. It's pretentious fluff to give them a sense of importance or specialness, but MGTOW is actually men opting out, dropping out, abandoning, walking away from the gynocentric traditional norm.